It is. Okay. So before we get into today's topic, which I'm actually excited for, well, I feel like I'm always excited for all of our topics, but it is a particularly good one this week. I have a question for you, similar to our great debacle of scrunch or fold, the great scrunch or fold debate of 2022. So this one is an interesting one. I think I also saw this on TikTok, or it might have been on Twitter. I can't remember the forum, the social media forum in which I found it. But when you go into a car, do you go leg first or butt first to get into the vehicle?
Hold on. I'm trying to I think leg.
Well, okay. I know your car is higher too. So if you were to get into my car, for example, like a 4-door sedan.
Maybe butt. Hold on. I feel like.
Right. Now you need to do it in your head.
No,
wait,
I think leg.
Into a car? Leg first. Okay.
Yeah.
So on TikTok or whatever, there was this interesting debate on whether men enter the car a certain way and then women enter the car a different way. And so, and what was funny is I actually entered the male way. So I enter with my leg first in the car, while apparently women typically enter butt first, which I thought was interesting.
So what's really funny is I was just thinking about Mark, because I have thought about this, not how I enter the car.
Yeah.
But Mark enters the car like a sociopath. He goes head first.
Really?
It is the weirdest thing I've ever. It's like a kid. Kids kind of put their head in first.
Yeah. But does his knee go onto the chair or on the seat when he goes head in first?
Yes.
Oh,
it's very awkward. And I'm like, why in God's name would that be how you get into the car? It is the weirdest thing I've ever seen in my entire life. Sometimes I'm like, this guy's a serial killer. This is the day that he's just going to snap on me. It's not it's like a kid. You know how kids do that? Where they go head in.
Yeah. They're diving into
running
the car.
in. Yeah, exactly. That's literally how he does it. And I'm like, this is just the actual strangest thing I've ever seen in my entire life. And he's, not a kid. It's so weird. But okay.
That is so funny.
I feel I think I go leg first.
Same. I go leg first.
Oh, oopsies. Okay.
Gotta fix the cam. Oh, and it was nope, not today.
Nope. Oh God. It's we want to really highlight your double chin today. Okay. Yeah, no. Pierre goes leg first.
Yes, he's leg first.
Okay.
Leg first. Yeah.
Interesting. We're going to have to do another.
Yeah, you're going to have to send it via text to your group of friends. We'll have a conversation about it. Maybe we'll create another great debate of 2022. Leg or butt in first, or I guess head first. I don't know. Maybe it'll be 3 options.
There's a third option here. No, yeah, I think I definitely go leg first. Into my car, it's definitely leg.
Well, yeah, because your car though is higher up, so you have to go in leg first.
I think
because of the height. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, but that's what I'm thinking. I'm thinking I do leg first in your car too.
Yeah.
But I'm gonna have to. This is really fucking with me because I'm fairly certain, but then I'm I don't know. Can you be a leg and butt together person?
Well, it depends. Is the leg going in first to the vehicle, or is your ass and legs being swung into the car at the same time? Because then I would induce that's butt first. Because it's not you're using your foot for stability first before your butt hits the chair.
I don't know. I'm going to go test this out later. I got to come back to you on this. I don't know. I'm really confused though. But
remember when we had the debate about the toilet paper when I first brought it up too, and you were for sure a folder, and then a day later you were like, fuck me, I'm a scruncher. I feel this is going to be one of those moments potentially.
I have never been so disappointed in myself as I was when I realized that I was a scruncher. And I, by the way, every time I go now, I do try to think about it, and I've tried folding a couple of times, and it's just too thin. I don't have it. No, not my thing. I'm totally fine being a scruncher now, but for a while I was really disappointed because I feel all signs point to me being a folder.
Oh, 100%.
And I'm
That's
not.
What I'm saying. The data is telling a very different story here.
I know. It's all right. I will report back on this.
Okay.
I will
Okay.
report back. And I'm also going to poll, the public
Poll
as well.
the group.
I'm going to poll the group,
We gotta
and
know.
we'll have an in-depth conversation about this. But
So,
yeah.
Transitioning into today's topic, now that I've like got the juices flowing for folks, existential questions of 2022. I love these actually, and I'm going to think up of other ones to bring to the table now.
Okay.
Okay. So today's topic, we both know I fucking love Friends. Like literally, I will just put it on the background and have it like play on repeat. It's just one of those things that I think is like a 90s baby. Like it's just core memory. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
It's part of our identities, really, I think, as millennials.
I mean, it's literally okay. Oh, that's a good one.
What?
Are you a Friends or a Seinfeld person?
Oh, fuck Seinfeld. I was a Friends girl all the way.
Friends. Mark is a Seinfeld guy.
I like want to be disgusted by that, but I feel like that makes sense.
I know. He loves it. He swears by it, and he'll be like, "Oh, it's not that funny. Friends is stupid." And then I like made him watch one episode, and he was like cackling the whole time, but trying really hard not to. And I told him, I was like, "Look, you have one episode." I said, "You give me one episode, and if it's funny, I'll give you that." And I literally didn't even laugh once. Seinfeld's awful. It's not funny. They're not even attractive. But anyway, okay. Yeah. So Friends, we love it.
Yeah.
Die Hard.
It's literally, it was a show that defined a generation. Let's just say that. Okay. I think we
didn't
can all agree on that.
necessarily age well though.
It did not, but I can still appreciate it as an art form based on the period that it came out on. You know what I mean?
100%.
Like, I think that's the interesting thing is a lot of people now are saying like, oh, let's cancel this show, that show. And I'm like, well, it also came out in a different time period, if you will, of what was okay versus what now is okay. I'm able to separate the art from I don't know, the politics. I don't know, whatever you want to define it as.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Okay. I like that. I like that.
Yeah. So apparently our queen, Jennifer Aniston, who I mean, she was my favorite, Rachel, but I'm sure everyone has their version of a favorite from the show. Apparently she did an interview this week alongside Sebastian Stan for Variety. It's like their segment called Actors on Actors. I actually really love this segment on Variety. It's kind of cool to see like how celebrities think about the art that they do. And also an intersection with like society as well. But this interview has seen a lot of backlash since it came out this week. During the interview, our girl Jennifer decided to talk about sort of the concept of the celebrity and celebrity culture and how essentially what a celebrity is now is kind of diluted what a celebrity is, or diluted the actor's job. And she said, and I quote, right, "I feel so lucky that we got a little taste of the industry before it became what it is today. More streaming services, you're famous from TikTok, you're famous from YouTube, you're famous from Instagram. It's almost like it's diluting the actor's job." Now, we all know I have a very different perspective on celebrity culture, I think, than most, which is funny considering that we do a podcast celebrity culture, but I digress. Apparently, though, people have been ripping into her online, saying that it's really rich coming from her, considering that she is the daughter of two well-known actors. And that they're interpreting what she said as, you know, I miss the good old days of like nepotism and privilege when you couldn't get famous so easily and there was like a barrier of access to that stuff. So kind of curious to hear your thoughts on this.
First of all, you know, Jennifer Aniston is my girl. We went to the same high school. I love her.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yes, we went to the same high school. I just think she's so classy. I think like even when everything was going on with Brad and Angelina and like him cheating on her and all that stuff, like I feel like she is classy. She's timeless. She's elegant. I love her. That's number one. Number two, I think that there is a difference between like Hollywood actor celebrities, and I think that there's a difference between like the influencer celebrity. I don't think that they're one and the same. I don't think that they necessarily have the same skills. I also don't necessarily think that like they generate their income. It's not the same. Like I guess it is in a sense where like they have brand endorsements and things like that, and there are a lot of them that do make money off of that. But I don't necessarily think that like influencers think that they're actors. So I think that like I understand what she's saying. Personally,
Yeah.
I do. Like I think she's just saying that like I think that yes, she maybe had like a stepping stone to get to where she is. But first of all,
Yeah.
she's really fucking funny.
She is. No,
She's
she
really
is.
funny.
I think there's like a couple of things here to unpack. One is like, yes, like I think what she said is interesting in the context of her coming from the more privileged background, right? Like you have people, parents who are already connected in this industry. So it was kind of easier for you to get in. And I think she should have been more careful with her words, but I don't think she was intending to be malicious or mean or like
No.
downplay what these people do. She did say though that like, oh, you can become famous by doing nothing, which I was
Is that
like,
not true?
girl, no, but I feel like that kind of downplays a lot of these content creators. Like a lot of them do put a lot of work into like filming, creating like the scripts or whatever it is that they have planned from a content perspective, the editing, the marketing for themselves. Like I still think that there's like a lot of work within that. So to downplay that and to like dismiss the level of work that they have to put in, I think wasn't really great, but I do understand where she's coming from. I just, to a degree, I think she should have been careful with her words a little bit. I think the other thing to note, oh, sorry, did you want to add commentary to that?
Nope. Go ahead.
I think one of the things that she brought up that was interesting that's kind of separate from this. So yes, we have the concept of like the influencer celebrity, right?
Mm-hmm.
Which I agree with you, I think is just a different category, right?
Yeah.
But then she also brings up the streaming services. So I actually did research on this because I was like wondering, you know, with the rise of these like streaming platforms and the rise of like, I mean, it's literally like a show coming out every other week now. You know what I mean? Like there's no lack of content to watch and to keep entertained with, I think, in our day and age, especially in the US. I find it interesting that she's talking about the dilution of the actor's job. And I think to a degree that she's actually right because there's so much content being filmed out there now. Like according to statistics in 2009, for example, there were 200 and I believe 10, I think it was 210 original scripted series in the US. And in 2021, it rose to 559. So actual entertainment content is exploding. And to a degree, I think she's right. It is diluting the actor's job as well, because now it's like, well, you know, it was harder back then, I think, to become an actor because there wasn't as much content coming out. And now I think I don't want to say it's easy because, you know, I'm sure this industry is not easy, but it is easier considering that there is so much more content that is being produced and created.
Yeah.
I kind of want to hear your thoughts on this.
So I totally agree with that. I think that what she was trying to say is that back in the day, it was maybe a little bit more about your skill or your talent. And I think that now what she's saying is like, I feel like a lot of it is about your following. It's like, oh, how many followers do you have? How many eyeballs can you get on this content if we cast you in this role? So yeah. I don't disagree with that. Again, I think maybe the way she articulated it came across like a little bit entitled. But I don't think, I think to your point, I don't think she was trying to be malicious. I think she was just trying to say like, we needed, and I'm not saying people don't have talent these days, right? But I think that back in the day, there was a barrier of entry. The other thing I wanted to say though is that how many fucking influencers that are making all this money, you think that every single one of them just happens to be good at it? Think about, like, I can think off the top of my head right now, Lisa Rinna's daughters, they're models. Kaya Gerber, she's Cindy Crawford's daughter. What about, Willow and Jaden Smith? Do we think that they're the most talented people in the world? Maybe not.
No.
Maybe. But you know what I'm saying? So it's like nepotism is still very much a thing. And I think that like these kids are just given access to looking like 37-year-olds with, you know, they look amazing and then you're like, oh my God, how old is this girl? And you're like, oh, you're 18. That's not normal. Like Sophia Richie, for example. I mean, look at all the Kardashian, like, so I don't necessarily think that like her having access to maybe like casting directors or things like that back in the 90s equates to.
I think it does.
I think it does, but I also think that like that shit still exists today. I think that it's just on a different scale.
100% it exists today. I think the reason why it's an issue, which she said in context of her access, right, to that thing, because think about it, she got popular in the 90s, right, during a time period where that barrier of access was quite high. Already there wasn't that much content being produced. So for her to be able to get that role, to get to the casting director, et cetera, with her connections, it's already a pretty big thing. Now, like her saying this is essentially saying like, I don't like that people now have an ability or ease of access given their lack of resourcing to be able, and I know that that's not what she intended, but it is the way that people are interpreting it. Right.
But I think that people also just like love to be miserable, and people also love to villainize everybody. And I don't think that that's, to your point though, I don't think that's what she was saying. I think that she's saying like, I don't think she's saying I miss the good old days of nepotism and privilege.
No, of course
I think I think that she's saying like, and I'm not saying people don't work hard today, but I do think she's saying like the amount of effort that everybody had to put in was maybe higher. I also think like nepotism, privilege, like it's all about connections. I think it is still the barrier of access is still, I think if anything, I think it's just as hard. It's just a different kind of hard because now it's just about saturation. How many people come to LA and want to make it? How many people try, their hand at content creation and never go anywhere? How many people, like, I think it's the same. I just think it's a different venue for it. I think that now it's about how many eyeballs can you get? How many likes can you get? What's your engagement stats? As opposed to like, what's your, like, did you have a good audition? I don't know. I think that she's simply saying that like the barrier has changed.
Yeah.
And so I don't like people just jumping. It's like, I don't like cancel culture necessarily. I think that like people should be given the opportunity to, I think people should call people the fuck out. But I also think that like immediately jumping to, you're the worst person in the world, you're an asshole, let's cancel you and ruin your life and your career.
Well, I don't think that they're necessarily doing that, but I do think once again, I don't think like when you actually watch the interview, I don't think her intention was to be malicious as people are making it out to be.
Yeah.
I think that, she does come from a place of privilege. And I think maybe acknowledging her parents or the level of nepotism that she got to have would have like, added a layer to this. But I think she's most likely, given how sweet, nice, kind Jennifer Aniston is and like the way that she's like talked about things and come out in the media and utilize the media to communicate messages, I have a feeling she's probably going to come out with something and like apologizing, being like, that wasn't my intent. I have a 100% feeling she's going to do something along those lines.
I don't think she needs to apologize. I also think
clarifying.
Maybe clarifying, but I also feel like living in this world where like you have to fucking apologize for having an opinion is like, I don't know. I think it's annoying personally. I think like she said what she said. Sure, she could clarify it if she wants people to, if she really cares. But I just think like people need to like stop like literally making everybody out to be a villain.
Yeah. 100%.
I don't know. I understand what you're saying. I think she could clarify it, but do I think that like everybody has to fucking apologize for everything, including being like, being entitled?
Yeah.
You could say I'm entitled.
We all are to a certain degree, right? Based on the
so should you apologize for that?
No.
Should you apologize for being...
Did I do anything wrong? I didn't do anything wrong.
No, but that's my point, right? It's like, well, no, I feel like there is like a little bit of like people who are entitled should just apologize for
existing.
Literally. And that's
for
the
breathing.
thing.
I breathed. Oh my God, I'm so sorry.
Yeah. Like,
no, I agree with you to a certain degree. And I think that's what's interesting is especially when you talk about, since we're on the topic of like influencer celebrity culture, right? Mm-hmm. Like, there's a certain level here that is very different from, I think, actors or musicians, right? Where they have a certain skill set, a certain art form that they produce, right? So people can actually love that art form or how they produce that art or how they entertain versus, influencer celebrities where because of cancel culture, I feel like their jobs are actually a lot harder because they have to toe a certain line all the time because they don't have that skill set that like these actors and musicians can lean on. You know what I mean? Like there's some terrible fucking people out there in the film industry that have done some pretty shitty stuff, but like people are able to separate them. And even though they don't like their behaviors, right, they still go and watch their content. Like, for example, what comes top of mind is like Leonardo DiCaprio. He loves his women young, right? And a lot of people are like, this is problematic behavior, right? But then everyone is like, he's still like getting like Oscar worthy roles. You know what I mean? Like shit like
yeah,
that.
because he hasn't done anything wrong. To our knowledge, right? He's not like grooming
To our
girls
knowledge,
before
but like
they're 18.
what I'm saying is like people in society do view his behavior problematic, though, is what I'm saying. And I feel like if he didn't have his like acting chops, right? If he didn't have the certain roles that he's had or the certain skills that he's had, I feel like society's thoughts on him would impact his career if he were just an influencer, right? Who had gotten his role on social media, because social media means that you are beholden to society and society's rules to a higher degree.
Maybe. I think like, so first of all, I just want to say that I think that people who are creators, like I am not diminishing the skill that they have. I just think it's a different skill set, to your point.
It's different.
Like, it's fucking hard, man. Like I made like an Instagram post. It took me like 3 hours to make one post. And I was like, this isn't even that good. And like, I think people are so creative. I think people are really dedicated.
Mm-hmm.
I think it takes a lot of work, effort, and I think a lot of like stamina. I think, you know, but I think like there are so many people who literally created like this entire their careers out of nothing when you think about it, right? Like Tinks, love her. I think she's great. Mm-hmm. But when you think about what she does, she has like one segment, the Rich Mom Starter Pack, that's like super fucking funny. But everything else, like she literally is just famous for telling people the brands that she uses. Like I wouldn't necessarily say that equates to talent. Sorry, I'm going to go ahead and say that. But like, I think it's incredible that she's been able to build this empire, you know, where she's making millions of dollars a year just by like being friends with children of celebrities.
But I think there's also the relatability piece. People like her. And I think that's why with influencer and being an influencer level celebrity, like you have to rely on people liking you a lot
That's
more
true. Okay.
Than people, you know, liking the way that you entertain, right? So it's just different rules, which kind of brings me to my next question, right? Is like, you know, I feel like millennials were really lucky that we got to see, I think, traditional entertainment, and then we got to see sort of the rise of the internet and how that changed, I think, the entertainment industry.
So old.
And then social media too. Like social media has changed rapidly over the course of the last 5 years. Like, you know, we saw the rise of celebrities from YouTube. I don't know if you remember Jenna Marbles. She was like one of my favorite YouTube stars.
Oh, yeah.
And she went off of all of socials. And then of course there's Instagram and the rise of celebrities with Instagram and how being famous kind of changed to a degree, like what fame meant within that category. And now TikTok. I mean, do you remember the whole like Wombland saga that I told you about with like those two creators where she, you know, that whole thing? So when you think of these folks and how, you know, some of these people are at a level of celebrity and how the context or concept of celebrity has actually changed with each medium as well, right? Like, is it just a different category of celebrity for each one of these mediums? Has celebrity itself just evolved? Like, or are these all just completely separate things?
I think like a lot of it, in my opinion, just has to do with the idea of like, I think entertainment has just evolved, right? Like I feel like it used to be, oh my God, Hollywood is so glam and, you know, these celebrities are all beautiful and they like hang out at these like really cool places in LA. And it was about like suspension of reality, but in the context of like a movie or music or a show. Whereas now I feel like the suspension of reality, to your point, feels a little bit more like attainable for all these people. And so the interest and like the excitement around it is like, oh shit, this person is like me, could be like me. Hey, maybe I can, you know, get famous from my humor or whatever. Like, I think that it's now just like, oh my, it just feels so much more tangible, because before you had to have an agent, you had to get the audition, you had to get the part, blah, blah, blah. Whereas now it's literally like you are your own agent. You are your own business owner. You are your own manager. You are your own creator. You're the marketer. You're, you know, you're all of the above. And so I think that that's what it is, like, personally. Because if you think about like influencers, like TikTok, people literally get famous just for reviewing makeup.
People, but like, there have also been people who review makeup too on YouTube who got famous too.
Yeah, I was just using TikTok as an example, but my point being is just like, I don't know. I feel like there is a level, I think it's likability, but at the same time, like, would I necessarily call it like talent? Maybe not. Talent in that they can like do makeup really well, but I don't think that that would have gotten someone notoriety 20 years ago, 30 years, oh my God, 30 years ago was the 90s.
Isn't that wild? I think also it's interesting here. I agree with everything that you said. I think what's also interesting here is like when you think of sort of the evolution of celebrity from each one of these mediums, like I remember the celebrities that, I mean, I don't know if you were into YouTube back in the days, right? But like Jenna Marbles was one of my favorite. And then you had like Phil Delfino, I think was his name, where he did like news type stuff. And there were like all of these celebrities that were so well known, like Liza Koshy was like very big on YouTube. And like these people don't exist anymore to a degree. Like I know Liza Koshy has like revamped herself into something completely different, has had to adapt with the times. Jenna Marbles is completely off of socials. Phil, I don't know what he's doing with his life either, but I feel like the celebrities that I knew from YouTube, like they no longer exist in my world. And like, unless they've adapted into other platforms and other mediums, like I don't think they necessarily exist at the same level of celebrity as when they were in the height of their fame.
Yeah.
Same thing with Instagram. People are saying that Instagram is becoming like a dinosaur in the social media space. You know what I mean?
Yeah. I think like I was actually talking to one of my friends who is an influencer, and you know, she was saying that Instagram is kind of like her primary, you know, not necessarily source of income or whatever, but like that's her primary platform that she started on, she loves, but she was like, oh, I need to start leveraging TikTok because that's how you get, you know, notoriety. That's how you go viral. And so I think it's just a matter of like, what's the next biggest, best thing? People are constantly looking for that. People are like, what's new? I'm bored. Who can I, you know, what trend can I jump on? And I think it's just a matter of like, people want new all the time. And to your point about how we've like almost tripled the number of scripted shows, I think you said.
Yeah.
It's just because we're always like, cool, what's next? What's next?
Yeah.
Can you imagine when we had to wait every week for like an episode to drop and you had to watch it like in that 30-minute span of time, or else like you were fucked and you were going to have a hole in your plot?
Remember when we had to wait for like 10 minutes for AOL to go to connect to the fucking internet just to Google like a question for homework? So yeah, exactly. Such a different time. I mean, it's kind of insane to me too that we've been alive for so long that we've seen how I know we're fucking old, but we've seen sort of so many evolutions of the internet and so many evolutions of like connection and so many evolutions of fame and what's possible with the internet. Like it's kind of scary to a degree. But kind of going on to your point about like the attention span thing, of like, what's next? So I was reading some university papers that were actually looking at sort of the differences between, you know, the concept of the online celebrity influencer versus more of a traditional model of celebrity, right?
Okay.
And social media, you know, they say has created this new class, right, of a celebrity and influencers, and they take advantage of network connectivity, peer-to-peer communication, and bandwagon behaviors so that information and influence essentially spreads faster, right? Like they're more likely to communicate with their fans. Like I don't think major celebrities, I remember when I was young, like having to like send a letter to some PO box to like my favorite celebrity, Melissa Joan Hart. I'm looking at you because I was a big Sabrina fan growing up.
Good show. Great show.
So fucking good. And I remember getting back like her picture like signed. Like that was it. Like that's how celebrities would communicate. While now it's like you have more in-depth ability of creating a community, right? And so it's just very different. And this works well for fame based on their ability to be able to attract attention through like how like extroverted they are and through their appeal and like willingness to push the envelope, which they kind of have to do, right? And they say here rather than like traditional performance skills, which is what we talked about earlier, where like, you know, these like musicians and actors, they have a very traditional skill set, and people watch them because of how good they are within their respective skills. While for influencers, it's very much like, how are you communicating with your fans? Like, what is the content that you're producing? Is it likable? Is it viral? Is it something that's within a niche that people like? And then you have to think that, like, on the other hand, you have like people's fickle nature that you're battling with as an influencer. Because you have to cater to it, because you don't know what the next big thing is. And we've talked about this on the show before, like, our attention span as a collective society is decreasing and decreasing every fucking year, right? And I think we're at like 6 seconds of attention span that we have before we're like, what's the next thing? What's the next thing?
Yeah.
What's the next thing? And so, these influencers are battling with that, right? And so it's just very, very different. And I think it is a level of celebrity, but because like there's a lot of respect I have for it, because I know that they're having to constantly adapt versus people who have more of traditional skill sets that, it's, we love Jennifer Aniston because of Friends. And like, because we've been a big fan of her for such a long time, like I'm going to go and like see whatever movie that she's in, because I've been such a long time fan, right? And I like love her ability to entertain and how funny she is. Versus like celebrities on these social media platforms, it's like, oh well, they created a video that I really liked and I thought it was good, so I'm gonna like it, but am I gonna keep going to their content? You know what I mean?
Yeah, but I also think like oftentimes the content is just relevant in that moment. Like even our podcast, right? Like sometimes when we pre-record or whatever, and we're like, oh shit, that's really not that timely anymore. It's like, oh, it's not as relevant even in a week. Whereas I feel like, back in the day, or more traditional like art form, while some of that shit ages really, really poorly, at the same time, like you and I can go back and watch like an episode of Friends, or I rewatch Sex and the City literally every single night. And it's like, I can still go back to that. So I just also think it is just a completely different art form, if you will, or like a different craft. Yeah. And like I said, it's really fucking hard. Like even just this podcast, right? Oh my God bless anybody who goes back and listens to like the first maybe like handful, maybe 10, maybe more episodes where like we were trying to figure it out. And we were like, I was just getting drunk because I was so scared to like put myself out there. It's really hard. And I give people who stick at it and keep going so much credit, because it's not, I don't think it's easy, but I think it's just different. And so I don't necessarily think that, to go back to the original point, I don't know that Jennifer Aniston needed to compare it. I do understand what she was saying, but I also it's not apples to apples, right? Like she's comparing apples to oranges.
Yeah.
Do I think that like people, I'm looking at you, Addison Rae, I think that you should stay in your lane. You're a good dancer. You maybe can be a presenter. Do I think that she has any business being in a movie? Maybe not. But I think that that's the thing, right? Like that they're trying to like do this crossover thing. And I think, again, that's a situation where maybe they cast her not necessarily for her skill or her talent, but because they were like, people fucking love her.
Yeah. Which is so interesting to me, and kind of brings me to like one of my last questions around like, how is this, in the context of what Jennifer Aniston was saying, in the dilution of like being an actor and the dilution of like celebrity culture, like how does social media fame actually translate, right, to like traditional celebrity culture to a degree? Because, I don't know any of these YouTube stars who actually made it to a more traditional celebrity model. You know what I mean? Who were able to transition into, whether it be acting or hosting their own TV shows. I think Liza Koshy, for example, has done a really good job of, she's now being like a host for like New Year's and, like being a host for some other shows and whatnot. Like, I think she's done a very good job of finding a way to transition, but like the success rate is still very low.
Yeah.
And so kind of curious, like how are people off of TikTok and Instagram? Like, is it possible even?
I think it's possible. I think it's like far and few in between, right? Like you have your Addison Raes or like your Charlie D'Amelio or whatever. I don't even think she did that good of a job, right? Wasn't the Hulu show like an absolute flop because nobody cares? I think a lot of people are trying to do what the Kardashians did.
But that is hard because, like you said, apples to oranges, like, and I think TikTok has a partial blame to do with this. Remember how I told you, like, sometimes I get on TikTok and I get lost for hours and hours, right?
Yeah.
There's the concept of the For You page. And what the For You page is like, they will give you content on the algorithm that's like based on like your viewing habits or like what you've liked in the past or like what you've engaged with. And so like, you know, I just like scroll through and I just noticed that like, okay, I need a dopamine hit. I need another dopamine hit. I need another dopamine hit. And so it's like, you keep
It's
constantly
so
going. And I think with like some of these celebrities on TikTok, like, especially if you don't have like a niche or a specific brand or a way that you engage with people and create a community, like it's not going to translate well over to a show. Like it's not like you have a celebrity base that like likes your talent, you know what I mean? And like how you've performed in the past. It's, they want that dopamine hit. So it's like to go from like a very short form video of like 30 seconds or like 7 seconds to like 3 minutes and translate that over to like a 30-minute show or an hour show. Like it's not going to translate well.
Yeah. So I agree. I feel like though a lot of people, it's more just about like this lifestyle that they can't understand or they can't fathom, but they want, right? Yeah. Like, I don't think anybody watches the Kardashians for their talents. I think people watch it because they're just like, oh my God, they have so much money that they rent out Disneyland, whatever it is, right? I think it's more just about like this fantasy of holy shit, the life that these people live and how different it is to mine. And that's what makes it entertaining. Again, the suspension of reality. But I think that the difference is that like when you watch a movie, it's like, oh wow, this is a movie. This is fake. This isn't real. But when you're watching like quote unquote reality television and stuff like that, it sometimes, I think it's probably suddenly, you know, people are renting out private jets for a photo shoot to make it look like they live that life. And it's like, bitch, we know you don't. We know that you're driving your Toyota Camry like the rest of us, and it's fine. But to your point, I think that like, I don't think that people tend to be successful in going from I'm a TikTok star talking, you know, doing makeup reviews to being an actor, because you're not.
Yeah.
I don't think that necessarily happens, but I think that like the lifestyle that these people are living where, you know, everything is paid for, they're getting like trips paid for, they're literally getting clothes, makeup, all this stuff that like we have to then go out and consume and spend and buy. These people are getting it for free, or they're, you know, they're making quite a living off it. I think that it's a lifestyle.
Yeah.
I don't think it's a talent necessarily. I don't think it's an art. I think it's a lifestyle that people want.
So we can all agree, I think, at the end of the day that like it's just a different form of celebrity. Like celebrity is no longer, it's like no longer like an umbrella term. It's like there's a different varietals underneath the umbrella.
Yeah. I mean, I, you know, Adam was actually the one who said it to me, Adam Gaines, when we had him on the podcast a couple of months ago now, when you were traveling, you know, he who's in the industry, right? He was like, it's not the same. He was like, celebrity does not equate to, you know, the industry does not equate to Hollywood. It's not the same. And I was like, oh, okay, fine. I guess you're right. But I think that like there are celebrities who, you know, again, are in movies. There are celebrities who are musicians. And then there are celebrities who, you know, walking. I remember I was at brunch one day in Sherman Oaks and I was like, I think that guy's like a TikToker. And it was James Charles sitting next to me. And people like came up to him and shit. So, but I was like, I think I've seen him, but like, I don't know if that's him. And then turns out it was him. But the fact is like, there is like, you recognize this person walking down the street, but like, do I consider that the same as like even the Kardashians? Absolutely not. So I just think it's different. I think there are subsets of celebrities within the celebrity culture, but I also don't think that that's the same as Hollywood or the industry.
Which is kind of interesting too, because if people equate Hollywood and the entertainment industry like so like this with the concept of celebrity. I know. Because it's important, right? Like if you're going to be selling a film, right, to other markets and you want people to go and watch it, you want someone who's like well liked, right? So it's so interesting to me. Like I wonder how that model will evolve over the ages, considering our attention spans.
I mean, mine is like shot. I'm a goldfish, so.
Oh my God. I literally now Pierre makes fun of me because I will have something on the TV. I'll have my laptop up and then I'll be on my phone. He's like, oh, so it's a 3-screen kind of day.
3-screen. Oh my God. I know. Whenever I get the notification, like your screen time is down 15%. I'm like, oh, means I was on the computer a lot more.
That's what that means. Thank you. Thanks.
Oh my gosh. But yeah, no, I think it's interesting. And I think that it's going to continue to evolve. I feel like the center of all of it is media.
Oh, 100%. And so like with whatever comes up next, it will then change what celebrity means again, right?
I
Which then kind of brings me up to my next point around fame, because with celebrity comes the concept of fame, the experience of fame, if you will. I'm not quite sure what my question is around this, but I think it's more so like, you know, I think we've talked about like what we kind of wish for the podcast to a degree, right? Of like how we really want it to be a big thing and whatnot. And I think with that, you know, comes a little bit of that celebrity culture, right? And with that comes a level of fame and people knowing you. And I've always told myself that, you know, that is not something, I don't want fame. Like, I think that concept is really scary. And so I find it interesting how some celebrities, like, how does one balance that? The celebrity aspect, but then also the fame aspect.
I mean, I don't know how people actually do it. I would imagine, as somebody who has never, actually, that's a lie. I did get stopped one time at dinner, as you all know. Someone asked me if I was Tink. So I kind of got an idea of what that felt like for 12 seconds. And it was a little weird, maybe because it wasn't me, but, and I never thought of myself as a Tink's lookalike, but I feel like it's all about perspective. I think that, you know, and is it fair that people, you know, can attack celebrities or people who are quote unquote famous just because they are, and we think that we have the right to do that? Absolutely not. But I think that that's a reality you need to seriously consider if you want to be in this industry. You just have to. That comes with it. You're going to have people that love you a little bit too much. Like, did you see that Justin Bieber, like, he addressed fans who were waiting outside his home, and he was just like, "Hey, look, like, this is my house." He was like, "Please," he said, "I don't go to your house and wait outside your door after you've had a long day." And she was like, "Can I have a hug?" And he was like, "No." He was like, "This is my house. Like, go wait for me." What, you know,
Jesus.
So, but I think that like a lot of it is just about perspective. Do I think it's right? No. But hey, you also choose to live this life and put yourself out there. And like that, it does come with the territory.
Comes with the territory.
And whether or not it's fair, maybe not. But you've got to, you have to understand that that's part of it. And so again, I think the perspective is really important. Like, I'm sure, you know, Kim and Chloe and, you know, all them, for example, they don't love people having an opinion about everything they fucking do, wear, say, eat, drink, vacation, you know. You say that you're eco-friendly and then you're flying in a private jet, Harry and Meghan, I'm looking at you. But I think at the end of the day, like, motherfucker, you're affording that damn private jet because of these people. So I think it's important to remember that, right? Like, it's a give and take in any situation. Same thing, right? Like corporate. Sometimes I'm like, oh, I want to get out of corporate America. But then I'm like, oh, do I really want to hustle by myself? No, I like benefits and having a steady paycheck. So it's all give and take. That's how I view it.
You can't have one without the other. I don't think there's ever been a situation where you could have one without the other.
I don't think so. I think that there are obviously different levels of it, but like, you're never going to be a billionaire. Like, or that's actually not true. There are billionaires. Like, I think you're not going to be a billionaire off of like social media, like Kim, and not have the other.
No, that makes sense.
And I think that that's just something you need to accept if you plan to put yourself out there. Like, you kind of sign that away, unfortunately.
Do you hear that, everyone? You sign that away. So like, for those who want to be a celebrity, just remember that.
No, seriously, like, right? I don't know. I'm just saying, you open yourself up to criticism. You open yourself up to like, I think some weird and like that unhealthy like obsession that some people get, like people crying when you walk in a room or waiting outside your house. Like, that's not normal, but it happens.
I don't think I don't think there's ever been a celebrity in my life that I would act in that way with. Like, I don't like ever.
No.
Like, there's celebrities like I would definitely want to smash, don't get me wrong, but like to like stand there and like cry and be like, oh, this is the greatest moment of my life. Not that I want to knock it for folks who like do act like that. Sure. I mean,
no,
that's
weird.
your jam, go for it. But like, I don't think but also I have a very different view about celebrity culture. I just think it's like people's jobs. Right. Like, just like how I work in corporate at a tech company, like they just, you know, part of their job is to put their face out there. Right.
Yeah, exactly.
That's how I view it. But I guess a lot of people don't view it that way. Man, makes you kind of think, right? Like, how did all of this really happen? Like, how did the concept of a celebrity really originate from? And like, have we always as a society made a big deal about people who have been on screen, you know, like from the era of the silent movies? Like, was this always a thing?
I think so. I think, again, it goes back to suspension of reality, feeling like you know this person, feeling like you're entitled to know that person and everything about them. And also just being like, hey, you know, sometimes I think it's like, you saved me from depression or whatever it might be. I'm not saying anyone saved me from depression. I'm just saying I feel like that might be, right? Like, oh, like I laughed at Charlie Chaplin. Thank you. now you owe me your soul. I don't know.
God
I feel
damn.
Like, but I feel like people feel that way, right? Where it's like they're entitled.
Yeah.
So,
yeah, I don't really know how to end this episode. I feel like I'm more like on like a thought train and a philosophical train, and like want to go and read on the history of the celebrity and how acting became an industry in the US, and the rise of Hollywood, and really where all this craze kind of began around the concept of celebrity. But so I probably will bid y'all adieu so that I can go nerd the fuck out after this.
And then report back next week.
Will do, y'all. And on that note, we'll see y'all next week.
Bye.